So they're going to come on in. So welcome, our 6th round meeting. This is our second to last one of the semester. It's pretty crazy how time flew by and you're having fun with us, right? So Colin over there is collecting cans for the food drive. So if you brought your cans, there's 5 cans for 1 service point. We are going to try. I think we were just talking about it right now. Most of you have heard about the typhoon that's going out in the Philippines. Will already pass, but there's just massive devastation there. So we're going to try and send those cans to the Philippines if we can somehow. We're going to try and figure that out. So we're going to do that. The e-board applications. So I keep telling you guys, it's an awesome thing to be on this executive board. It's very prestigious, it's honorable, and you feel like a part of something that's bigger than yourself. So it's just a fantastic opportunity. The applications are due on Sunday, November 24th at 11:59 p.m. So submit those. Yeah, giving them a deadline. We're gonna have a workshop on Monday. So it's on the calendar. It's been there for a week or so. We just finalized it. So it is going to be a suturing workshop. So we are gonna, give you guys some bananas. We're gonna slice up the banana, and some dental students from DSD are going to teach us how to suture that banana. So it's going to be awesome. Yes, you have
What happened to the filling the cavity one?
So, fair question. So what happened was, fair question.
He doesn't like bananas.
Yeah, clearly.
I'm just wondering what happened with the cavity.
So what happened is that we decided that the dental students have a really busy schedule this semester, or trimester. We can only do workshops around their schedules. So the only people that would be doing the filling workshop would be the people who were doing the drilling workshop, and that wouldn't be really fair to everybody else. Everybody deserves a chance to get to do a workshop. So we decided that let's try another workshop where it's not the same people. Do you see what I'm saying? Just to give everybody a chance to do a workshop. Yeah, keep them. We'll have a filling workshop at some point. I just don't know when right now. Okay, so yeah, that's on Monday. Rebecca's going to send out the sign-ups later tonight, so look out for that. Do you know what time you want to send that out? 8? What? 10?
I have class.
Okay, well someone will send out a sign-up around like 8 o'clock. Do you want to talk about the social?
Sure. Okay, so DSD has a potluck social every Thanksgiving, so that's the weekend before Thanksgiving, so it's going to be Friday night. Yeah, it's potluck, so you just bring food. You could either bring some kind of drinks, food that you make, food that you buy, but make sure you bring something because that's kind of how potluck works. Also how you get the social point. So it's really good. You get to hang out with the dental students, really casual dinner setting. It's kind of like having a huge family before Thanksgiving, and their food is really good. They make how many turkeys?
I think they said that they're making 10 turkeys this
10
year.
turkeys,
4
yeah.
of which they're deep frying. So.
Really good. I unfortunately will not be there because I have nationals for club soccer, but Michael will be there and other members on the e-board are going to be there, so make sure you go. It's going to be a ton of fun. I'm really sorry, really sad that I can't miss out, and sorry. So yeah, you guys should go.
David and I are going to dress up like pilgrims.
They're not going to dress up.
He's going to be Pocahontas.
Okay, and so do you want to say something about SSE?
Yeah, so if you guys have been keeping up with the emails, after this week there are only 2 SSCs left for this semester, and then the last one we only take in 8 people instead of 16. So you always get the confirmation email Wednesday night. There was some confusion that we send out non-confirmation emails, like you didn't make it into the SSC. That's not how it works. If you get the email Wednesday night, you're in. If you don't, then you didn't sign up fast enough. So that's how that works. So make sure, if you guys haven't gone this semester, really try to get on that because that's really important, especially for being a member of our club.
Yeah. Oh, and breakfast with boys this Friday for those of you who are coming.
So if you get the confirmation email, please let me know if you're going to go to breakfast with boys.
Jackson Joe's, it's the best. Okay, and lastly, this is our only meeting in November. As you can see right there, there's no meeting on the 27th. We pushed it back to the 4th, December 4th. Our last meeting is a meeting/social event. It's the White Elephant Gift Exchange. So we'll explain by email how it works. It's really fun. The apparel has come in, so you guys will get, your Christmas presents, your Hanukkah presents. We got awesome jackets. They are very cool, so you guys will get those. Lastly, we're going to have Member of the Month for October, since we don't have any members this month. So it's 2 people. The first one is someone who came to the tailgate. I met him there. He has been an active member ever since. He's gone to breakfast before. He's pretty much come to every social, and he's just an excellent member. We're encouraging him to run for the executive board, and just all around a great member. So Ron here. So our second member of the month isn't here right now. She's not feeling well, or at least that's what she told me. She has gone to Kicks for Kids more times than I can count, and knowing that that she will only get a point for going to 1. So she's an outstanding member. She goes to every social, tries to go to every SSE. She's a truly excellent member, and that's Yeva. So round of applause for her. And I just realized this, but both of our members of the month are Russian. No bias. No bias. There's no bias. Okay, so last but not least, I want to introduce our speaker for today. He is an extremely well-rounded individual and highly respected by myself, lots of dental students, faculty, staff. He is currently a published novelist. He has written the Surgeon General's report. He was dean of the dental school from the year 2000 to 2008. So clearly a very affluent individual. Without further ado, Dean Slotman.
Well, it's really nice to be with you. It's the aspiring dentist to be, the idea that here at USC we have this kind of interest in dentistry and dental hygiene and oral health professions is fantastic. And first, the point I would like to leave you with this evening is I wish you well, and I hope your dreams come true, whatever they may be. Thinking about what to say tonight, I thought I would make myself schizophrenic. I could talk a little bit about my journey as a SC undergrad a few years ago, and then sort of coming forward. And then also with the help of Sandy Boulevard, who is a woman that I absolutely adore, and my wife gives me complete permission to adore Sandy. She shared with me some of the so-called factoids for the class of 2017, which is the most recent dental class that has come into the school. Sort of who are they, and what were their backgrounds, and what was the applicant pool, and what schools did they come from, and all of that kind of stuff. And so at any point, please feel very comfortable in chiming in. I have been involved in education for a bit, and I am extremely comfortable in what you're thinking about, and if I can possibly contribute, that would be really nice. So a little bit about my background. My mother and father were immigrants. They came from, ironically, Russia, a city there called Kiev, and in the Ukraine. And they came to this country and they settled in Chicago. My mother became a registered nurse. My dad became a pharmacist. And then after 5 or 6 years, I appeared as the, quote, first American. And if you are in a family of immigrants and you happen to be male and you happen to be firstborn, I mean, there's a rush that goes on in those family dynamics that you kind of take for granted if you're the child, but it also is a very heavy burden, because their expectation is that you become either President of the United States, a member of the Supreme Court, you know, something along those lines. We lived in Chicago when I was a little kid, and there were pictures in a little tiny apartment, and there were pictures on the wall of the same person in 3 different poses. And as I was growing up, I swear I thought it was like a distant uncle, maybe sort of a relative that I should know about, and it turned out to be Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And there was a thing about reverence to this FDR and all that went with that. From there, they moved to the East Bay of San Francisco, a little town called San Pablo, grew up in that environment, and then eventually came to Los Angeles, did high school. And coming out of high school, I was one of those kids who didn't know what he wanted to be. And my parents said that in America, you can be anything you want. It is an amazing country. And they looked me in the eye and they said, you have 4 choices. In America, you have 4 choices. You could be a lawyer, you could be a physician, you could be a dentist, or you could be a pharmacist. Anything that you want. So that was kind of interesting. And so anyway, out of high school, very frustrated, and it was peacetime, I joined the military at the age of 17 with my parents' permission. And went through basic training and so forth, and decided that the best school in the Army was called Dental Technician School. And so I signed up and I got it, and I went to Fort Sam Houston, and they taught me how to do dental technology, and then they sent me to Walter Reed Hospital in Washington, D.C., to a place called Walter Reed Hospital, an annex called Forest Glen. Now this is the mid-1950s, so this is a very different world than today. And at that time, the United States was hosting the victims of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, where the atomic bomb had been dropped in August 1945. And these individuals were coming through the State Department to Walter Reed to have facial reconstruction. And my job as a technician, it was sort of like making faces out of plastic. So we would make, out of using alginate, we would make molds of people's faces, and then we would, off of interviews and looking at them, try to come up with the color and texture. It was like making a potato doll, because implants didn't exist yet, so that technology wasn't there. All of the sophisticated biomaterials that we now take for granted didn't exist. So it was sort of like prosthetics, wear glasses, wear your hair a little differently, certain kind of makeup, and that was the state of the art at that time in human history. I became infatuated. I just thought, this is the most unbelievable thing to do with one's life, is to figure out how to make this better and how to make improvements. And so I made a personal commitment that I would finish the Army, I would go to college, and I was coached to get a liberal arts background. I was an English major. And then I would pick up the science courses that would be appropriate for going to dental school in organic chemistry, zoology, botany, math through, I think at that time, might have been Algebra 3 and the part of calculus, and physics. That was kind of like to go to dental school. I was married, had a child, and entered USC as a freshman dental student with 8 years of experience as a dental technician. So immediately word went out in the class that Hal knows how to do wax patterns and how to pour a model. So I was popular from day one. This was kind of an interesting experience. Went through dental school, and then in the course, the clinical education then and now is literally awesome. I've been in and out of every dental school in this country and North America, and some in other parts of the world. And the SC experience in becoming a clinician, if you avail yourself, is unbelievable. And taking advantage of hospital rotations and taking advantage of community outreach. And when I was a dental student, they invented the mobile clinic. We didn't have mobile clinics, and we had a guy who Dr. Renault in oral surgery at the time, who had a pickup truck, and he loaded it with dental students, and we went into some godforsaken place in the mountains of Mexico, and we provided oral health care in that setting, and we all got, you know, sort of infatuated with all of that. And then in town, now it's a hotel in Santa Monica, but there was a guy named Diederich who created something called Synanon, which was a helping facility for drug addicts and alcoholics, and SC was connected to provide care and get involved in those sorts of things. So I had that experience. But the thing that just blew me absolutely on a trajectory, which was a little unusual, was to go into biochemistry. This was not the USC tradition at that time. Now it's a little bit different, but it's still not quite a major off-ramp for people with dental training. So I went over to that school in Westwood that at the time had a very good basketball program. You've heard of it, UCLA, I believe. And did a postdoc in biochemistry. At that time it was called nucleic acid biochemistry. Today we call it molecular biology. Wonderful experience. And then SC hired me as a baby faculty member. And I've been on the faculty for a mere 43 years. Can you believe it? 43 years. Along that way, my wife and I have had 4 children. None went into dentistry. We currently have 8 grandchildren, 2 of them college, 1 out of college, no dentistry, 1 in college, no dentistry. They're happy, they're doing good things, we love them, but we're 0 for 8 in grandchildren and 0 for 4 in children. So that didn't happen for us. After I joined the faculty, started doing research and getting things off the ground, and SC environment for clinical research and basic research and translational research is fabulous, as well as the clinical program, the number of part-time faculty that come in, the sort of town and gown relationship, the networking that's possible, the optimizing the chances for success are really incredible. So of all of the schools in the country, clearly I have a bias. But I would also add, when you're applying to dental school, apply to everybody who will take you. Because the first issue is, I'm going to become a dentist. The second issue is, where am I going to become a dentist? So make sure you find a home, and then maybe it'll be SC, maybe it'll be UCLA, Western, Loma Linda, UC San Francisco. There's a new school that'll open I guess opening in 2014 in San Diego. It's a version of Western. I don't think it has a name yet, but it's connected to that program in the San Diego area. And then, of course, around the country, I think at the moment it's close to 70 dental schools in the United States. Now at SC, which is a good thing, the school receives about 3,300 applications a year. And it selects 144 folks. So it means it's about 1 person out of every 23 applicants. So that's, I would call that fiercely competitive. So that means I want to alter the odds. So if I were today applying to dental school, I'd like to open up my chances to multiple schools and all that goes with that. The other thing that's interesting is, because we're private here and we're not driven by a quota system with necessarily a resident from the state of California, or an obligation to take only USC students into the dental school. So because those constraints don't exist, we've got 76 different institutions represented in the school and about 65 different majors. So it means that our classes are filled with extraordinary young men and women. I mean, cinema majors, lawyers who change their mind after getting their law training, PhDs who decide to come into dentistry, master's degrees, bachelor's degrees. So it's a very culturally rich environment which I'm very proud to be part of as a faculty member. And I think students, if they allow themselves, feel good about the incredible diversity that you can avail yourself. Then the school has essentially sort of 4 drivers. One is the community outreach reputation. We were the first to open up the USC Rescue Mission and address the needs of the homeless on Skid Row. No other school in the country, literally no other school in the country, as of July of 2000, had a program that focused on free, unconditional, free care for homeless people in any major setting in the United States. We were the first, and that program continues, and according to the dental students, unsolicited on my part, it's one of the best rotations in the school. They love going there, the faculty, the dimensions of need, the opportunity to give people smiles that they've never had, and self-respect that they've never had. It is really amazing. Now, we tried to design this thing to go up to San Luis Obispo to the north and the Mexican border to the south. It's been pulled in a little bit. We still go pretty much to the Mexican border, but it sort of mostly starts in the extended Los Angeles County. And mobile clinics, setting up in elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, churches, you know, all of those kinds of dealing with the elderly. The most vulnerable people in America, as you might imagine, is if you're poor. Poor sucks. Besides being poor, if you're poor and under 5, or you're poor and 65 and older, it is horrific. And so the oral health needs and the prevalence of disease is very dramatically different in, sort of according to the jargon, socioeconomic determinants. People who have not accrued wealth, do not have education, are living 100 to 200% below the poverty line, and are either elderly and compromised or an infant and compromised in terms of opportunity. So those populations need diet, education, nurturing, hugging, somebody to read to them. I mean, just all kinds of things that we can bundle and have learned how to bundle. When I was dean, we got somebody came in and said that they represented the Ella Fitzgerald Foundation. The singer Ella Fitzgerald, who some of you, anybody remember the name? Yeah. So a great jazz vocalist, a remarkable voice. So in her, she passed away, and in her legacy, she decided that from her perspective, reading, being literate, was the key to everything, that you had to be literate. So she gave this, through her foundation, gave our school money essentially to buy books, so that when we go out on the mobile clinics, we can build in reading and giving books and so forth. And that's been going on for 10 years or so, kind of a neat little extra thing. The #1 epidemic in America amongst children, what is it? Okay, there's caries. Definitely caries is the #1 chronic disease of children, about 58% of children. Very prevalent. But what's even more prevalent than tooth decay? Work with me. Begins with an O. Obesity. We have children today who are 11 and 12 years old who have adult onset diabetes, hypertension, early signs of cardiovascular disease, and a reduced life expectancy. First time in history. So the trajectory has always been every generation has it better than the one before it, and we live longer and longer. So the average American lifespan in 1900 was 47. Today it's about 80. And for the first time, because of the obesity epidemic in children, the demographers are saying that the lifespan is going to begin to flatten and decrease in the greatest country in the world. So what can we do about it? Dentistry begins at the lips, right? So clearly, food choice and diet and the beginning of the alimentary canal and all of that kind of stuff, you can relate to it. And we could get comfortable, we already have with smoking cessation, made a lot of headways. Dentistry is doing a lot of good things to reduce the prevalence of smoking, which is a confounding variable for all kinds of things. But the next challenge, and the biggest challenge, which is really tricky, is how do you change obesity? Because if you're a new parent and you're not very well educated and your baby is crying, sugar water is a gift. They stop crying. And all of a sudden, I solved the problem. They did, the default position is, by the way, they're going to have rapid tooth decay, because the substrate for the bacteria that are associated with dental caries, that substrate of carbohydrates, if you make it enriched for glucose, the bugs just love it. Strep mutans writes letters to people saying, keep it coming, we love the sugar. It's fantastic. So we, as oral health professionals, and maybe health professionals, could do something about that. And in your generation, hopefully we could change that, because at the moment, it's very dramatic. It is the most serious epidemic that the United States has ever faced. I just came back from the ADA meeting in New Orleans. I've never seen so many fat people before. Yeah, I mean, because I don't know if anybody been to New Orleans in the group? I mean, what they eat on a regular basis is just, it's against the rules of a longer life. It's compromised in many different ways. It was sort of an odd situation. So the other line is research. USC Dental School is ranked #1 amongst all private dental schools in the United States and North America in NIH grant support. That's because of scientists on the 4th floor of this building, and 8 miles from here, where my office is located, at the Center for Craniofacial Molecular Biology. Those two facilities generate most of the research activities. We have pre-dental students. How many of you are currently CCMB oriented on Tuesdays and Wednesdays? There's one there and one there. So that's something we encourage. We also have dental students and medical students and pharmacy students and PhD students, et cetera, et cetera. So and they're different motives. Some people are doing it because they have a passion. I want to do research, I want to solve problems. That's great. Some people, in addition to that, I want to become an orthodontist or an oral maxillofacial surgeon or an endodontist, and I'm working on my resume, and I want to differentiate myself from the crowd, and I want to have research on my resume. Nothing wrong, but it's another motive in this stuff. So community outreach programs and research are major signatures for USC. A third one is this thing called PBL. In 1995, I was asked by a man named Harold Varmus if I would take a leave of absence from USC and go to the NIH and be the director of the Dental Institute, which my wife said, sure, why not? And we went to Bethesda for 5 years, and I served as the director of the Dental Institute at the NIH, which was a great experience. While there, here, Chuck Schuler, and at the time the Dean Howard Landsman, created the pilot for problem-based learning. So it was 5 years old when I finished at the NIH, came back, and they asked me if I would be the dean of the dental school, and I was presented with this interesting dilemma. Here's the data from the pilot of PBL. It's been running for 5 years. This is what it looks like, 12 students a year. This is what the data looks like. National board scores, going into specialty, performance, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So the choices were kill it, and in reflection, you know, who knows. Another would be keep it going as a pilot. And the third was make a commitment and phase it in and make it school-wide. At a weak moment, I took the third choice, which meant for 4 years we ran 2 dental schools. PBL, incoming classes, first all freshmen, then freshman, sophomore, then another class, and then finally 4 classes of PBL, while we were wrapping up the traditional program that had existed before that time. So that's become, it's now institutionalized, and that's become another signature, small groups, developing writing skills, oral skills, doing biomedical sciences around patient cases, that sort of thing. And we could talk about that more if you would like. So that's the other issue. And then the final driver here is we arguably have the largest part-time faculty in the country in terms of 3 days a week and are participating. So it means that instead of the school being completely alien to the quote, the real world, and vice versa, there's a very nice relationship that we think is to be taken advantage of. So we've got, at any given time, 500 one-day-a-week type faculty, and then we have about 110 full-time faculty, and then we've got residents and all of those kinds of things. So that's the dental school. That's all good news. The bad news is tuition. Currently, the school's tuition is running at about $76,000 a year. And last week, I read an article that I urge you to read. It was in the New England Journal of Medicine. And in there, and it's called something like, "Will the Medical Education Bubble Burst?" is the name of this article. And in it is the correlation between accumulated student debt in relationship to income. And is there a rational return on investment? Do people who go into certain fields and pay certain amounts of dollars, whether borrowed or out of pocket or from mom and dad, wherever it comes from, is the return on the investment valid in terms of some kind of business model that somebody would put together? The answer is, for dentistry, absolutely. Absolutely. But it sure doesn't feel like it when you are an undergrad looking at applying to dental school and entertaining the notion $250,000 to $300,000 of debt seems, to me, like a large sum of money. It could be a lovely home in some community. It's a lot of money. So that means that in return for that kind of investment in your name from wherever the dollars come from, your earning capacity is so much a year for a certain length of time. Yes?
So I know that we're talking about money now. What are the kinds of different jobs that dental student graduates can go into other than just working in a practice or an office, something like that, that would help them?
So in life, good question, thank you. So everybody heard the question? So this is sort of like the on-ramps and off-ramps of being called a dentist or a dental hygienist, for that matter. So we've got the head of the federal agency, HRSA, a couple of governors, a couple of members of the House of Representatives, key members in the advisory groups to the president are dentally trained people. The previous head of the FAA, the Federal Aviation, was a dentist. So for some people, it is dentistry and it's into a certain kind of politics as an off-ramp. Then there are 6 or 7 specialties, becoming an orthodontist, an endodontist, a prosthodontist, an oral maxillofacial surgeon, oral medicine, pediatric dentistry, hospital-based dentistry, general practice dentistry, all of those, public health dentists in the Indian Health Service, etc. All of those become opportunities. There's also sort of an interesting thing going on is, am I going to go into dentistry because I want to be my own boss and I want to be like a small business person? And that's my ambition. I don't want to work for anybody else, probably because I'm a little obnoxious and I might not fit in. So I want to be my own boss. So in dentistry, it is still one of the few professions that I can think of, veterinary medicine would be another, where it's fragmented and there's a lot of room for small segments of the profession. And there is definitely a trend for more dentists, more physicians. It's always been the case primarily in pharmacy to be employed. So to be on a payroll of some organization, it could be a private or public or federal organization that basically takes care of the economic stuff, and you get a W-2 form every year for income tax. It is a employed situation. It's sort of, we sort ourselves out. I mean, some of us want to do A, some of us do B, or the arrows go in both directions. You could try A for a while, do B, and so forth. But that is out there. Then there is always academics, dentists who prepare themselves with master's degrees and PhDs and go into science or behavioral science or social science, those activities. And then there's a lot of not-for-profit foundations, Smile Train, areas that deal with children with broken faces all over the world, and all of those activities that are involved. A number of our dental graduates have gone into the Peace Corps and have actually settled in and have become major contributors within the model of the Peace Corps, of an international sort of awareness of opportunities and those sorts of things. I think that's kind of, and then of course certain dentists at some point in their lives accumulate a certain amount of wealth, and they start buying apartments or things. For a while, I held an endowed chair here in the dental school called the George and Mary Lou Boone Professor of Craniofacial Molecular Biology. George Boone graduated from this school as an orthodontist, and his wife, Mary Lou Boone, graduated as a dental hygienist, fell in love, life went by, children, and so forth, and they accumulated an enormous amount of money that they decided to redirect and give back to the university. But he didn't make the money doing orthodontics. He made the money by developing property in Southern California and that kind of thing. So, you know, it depends.
Yeah. Do you have any questions?
Questions? Chance of a lifetime. Please.
Do you think Obamacare, in regards to dentistry, what are your thoughts? Do you think it's going to touch it? Do you think because I know like the general trend of being a physician is everything's going to be hospitalized now. There's going to be like very slim chance of having private practice. Just wanted to know what your thoughts are. Ashley.
Ashley. Ashley asked, what about ACA, so-called Obamacare?
Right.
And how did and connect the dots a little bit if you could. This is like truth-telling. The United States is a fantastic country. 2/3 of the American people receive amazingly terrific oral health care. And 1/3 don't. In a democracy, the 1/3 who do not have access to care, who cannot afford care, etc., eventually get elected to public offices, eventually get an opportunity to apply some influence, and are saying, over here please, we want oral health care too. So in the Affordable Care Act, through a complicated set of lobbying efforts on behalf of different groups who will go unnamed, children were highlighted as every child in America would, quote, will have access to comprehensive, preventive-oriented oral health care. Okay. And that's in writing in the document. Then there's an asterisk. And the asterisk says, depending on the state. So the way Medicaid or Medi-Cal works is the state has to come up with 1/4 of the money, and the federal government comes up with 3/4 of the money. So one would like to believe, and hopefully many of you will influence this in your careers, one would like to assume that every state would cherish its children and would want all children who are basically an investment in the future, because when children drop out of school, become criminals, and we lock them up, there's no return on the investment. It is not a good picture. It's all the stuff is going in the wrong direction. So the idea of getting prenatal care, early childhood development, which would include oral health care, preventive services, blah, 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 all those sorts of things, and then a chance to go to school, at least get a high school degree, maybe a technical degree, maybe 2 years of college, 4 years of college, or more, and contribute to the benefit of all of us, would strike me as not a bad idea. It's not called socialism, it's not called communism, it's called good people do that sort of thing. Well, we have 23 states in the United States that refuse to expand Medicaid to include the disenfranchised. The governors say no. The legislators say no. Now, we happen to live in a very blue state, and so in the state of California, our governor and our legislator and our population, I guess at large, are saying go there. But every state, for example, another large state is Texas. Texas says no. Ohio says no. The Dakotas say no. North and South Carolina say no. So, and on and on and on. So the problem with any piece of legislation that's federal, that has to do with either education or health, is that our founding fathers, God bless them, divvied this up to say the states will control education and health. So when you become a dentist, it turns out you're not a national dentist. You're covered by, depending on certain states, we have exams and things like that. There's one that we take out here called the Western Regional Dental Exams, which covers 29 states, including Vermont. It's called Western, and I thought Vermont was on the East Coast, but it's included in the REB packet. So you get that degree of mobility. But one would think that a physician, a nurse, a pharmacist, a dentist would be educated to have competencies that would be nationally recognized and not have to renegotiate state by state by state as to your scope of practice and what you can or cannot do. The same applies to dental hygiene as well. On the adult side, Medicare, which was enacted in 1964, which is for people who are 65 and older, has no benefits whatsoever for oral health care. So I'm just imagining that my brothers and sisters in the baby boomer crowd one day are going to say, this must be inserted because this is crazy. I get eye care, I get arm care, I get knee care, I want to have oral care as well. So that's a to be modified as a future piece of modification of the enactment. Children are covered completely except for the caveat of states. The Medicare, no oral health benefits. Medicaid, which is for everybody else, depending on which state, you do or you don't get certain benefits. Does that give you a sense? Yeah, but it's a work in progress. Today, I don't know if any of you caught news today. Today on the news, there's a big emphasis on 5% of the country who are young people who, with Obamacare, are being asked to come in and go to an exchange and get health care after after their 26th birthday. You know, that's the thing. And insurance companies sending out massive letters in California. 1 million letters were sent out saying your insurance is void. So what nobody sort of realized is the insurance companies, again, in a capitalistic country, this stuff happens. The insurance companies decided that it's not in their business interest. And that's what it's got nothing to do with Obama and Obamacare and all the rest of it. It's just they don't want to get to the price point of $100 a month or $50 a month, you know, sort of like what you pay for Starbucks, you'll pay for health care. kind of scenario. So they are just saying, that's bad business, we don't want to go there, so here's a letter, we're voiding you. Let the government take care of you. But if you live in a state that doesn't expand Medicaid, and you're young and like unemployed or like barely employed, there's nothing. So there's some stuff in the air that needs to be fiddled with. And this morning I got up early, got on an airplane, flew to Sacramento, and lobbied this morning to try to expand some of the Medicare issues and Medicaid issues to include oral health. Oral health, mental health, and vision health are the three areas that are often neglected. It's like they're out of body for somehow, as opposed to how can you possibly go through life with, you can't see well, you've got mental issues of whatever type, and you've got rampant tooth decay, and it looks like you have attention deficit disorder, but it's just because it hurts so much, you're kind of moving around a lot, but it's not attention, it's pain. So it's coming along. Anything else?
We have time for any more questions. Any other answers?
Please.
I had a question regarding like, once you finish dental school, is it a popular thing to go into developing machinery for new technologies that can assist with procedures, or is that something that's not so big?
A good question. I'll pick somebody famous. There's a dental student who graduated from NYU Dental School and decided when he graduated, it was a male, decided when he graduated that, and he had a little bit of a background in physics, and decided that he would come to Washington and work for the Bureau of Standards, sort of like just to kind of get started. And in so doing, he invented CAT scans. So the patent on CAT scans and tomography is a dentist named Robert Ledler. So definitely it has been done, it can be done, and he would be called proof of principle. The dental school has a program, the SC undergrad, we worked out a deal with engineering around bioengineering, where we put on a course in biotechnology, which is a joint program between the dental school and the School of Engineering. And some of our students coming into dental school have backgrounds in bioengineering. And some of our students are just curious. And so they come up with new loops, you know, sort of visual things. There was a dental student here at SC a little bit before my time as a dental student named Raphael Bowen. And we call him Ray. And Ray Bowen graduated from SC and decided that he thought, he was very interested in adhesive chemistry. And he thought there must be a way to create a polymer that you could put on the surface of a tooth that had like wrinkles, you know, cusps and grooves and so forth, that could protect the tooth from tooth decay. And he invented dental sealants. And so Ray Bowen is like a big deal in the translational research, that he opened up composite resin production and dental sealants. So in this era of apps and digital this and digital that and 3D morphing and all kinds of tools that can be envisioned, it's just up to one's imagination. And lots of industry money, federal money, lots of ways of supporting it. Yeah, it's a fascinating area.
Thank you.
Okay. Clearly, he answers every question really well. I mean,
Thank you, Michael.
yeah. It's just fascinating.
It's my Russian training.
When I got the chance to go to lunch with Dr. Slotkin, I literally had a million questions and he answered every single one of them. And I felt like I learned 1,000 textbooks in just one lunch sitting. So it was really incredible. So thank you very much.
I'd like to leave you with a little vignette. I go to Washington, 1995. I'm at a social event in Constitutional Hall, like 2,000 people. It's being hosted by this little midget named Donna Shalala, who's the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services in the Clinton administration. and everybody's networking and passing out cards and all of this kind of stuff. And way over in the corner of the room, this is like 2,000 people big, way over in the corner is a guy named Walter Cronkite. Now, in my life as a junior dental student is when John Kennedy was assassinated this month, and it was Walter Cronkite, the anchor of CBS, who basically broke the news to the country when it was finally cleared to announce the president is dead. So, and Walter Cronkite sails, he writes books, his integrity is amazing. So I asked a mutual friend, do you know him? Could you introduce me? And we go over across the room to him, and introductions are made, and I start babbling, like a movie fan, or like as if he's a rock star. And I'm talking like as fast as I can. And as I'm doing this, he's taking it all in, and sort of his face is kind of neutral. And I'm telling him how great he is and how wonderful. And I'm telling him what he did with his life. And this is going on and on and on. And then finally, if you ever talk real fast and you're kind of like hyper, at some point you have to stop and breathe. So I stop, and he turns and says, what do you do? Walter Cronkite is asking me, what do I do? And this is really like I'm a movie fan kind of thing. And I say, well, my name's Hal Slavkin, and I'm from the University of Southern California, and I'm a dentist. He comes, we're standing like really close. He takes his hands. You're a dentist? That is the greatest profession in the world. I wanted to be a dentist more than anything in the world. My grandfather was a dentist. My father was a dentist. I had to get a job on a town newspaper, and I went into journalism. Walter Cronkite. He then went on to say, so what are you going to do in Washington? I'm going to work at the NIH. What are you going to try to do? You know, we're going to cure mankind or something. And I'm going on, and we were together for about 45 minutes. In Washington, having the opportunity to be with somebody like that for 45 minutes, it's usually a minute or two. Everything is hustle. So it's over, my wife and I are driving home. I'm like floating. This has been like just an amazing experience for me. And we go home, and I can't get it out of my head. And the next morning I go to my job at the NIH, and the phone rings, and my secretary comes in and says, Secretary Donna Shalala is on the phone. So good morning, Madam Secretary. I've never met her. This little midget who was hosting this thing never appeared, so I don't know anything about her. And so she says, Hal, Walter called me last night. Walter? Yeah, Walter Cronkite. He had a great evening with you, and he wanted to ask me, have we ever had a Surgeon General's report on oral health in America? We, of course, have had tobacco, and we've had exercise, and we've had this and that. But I had my staff look, and we've never had it. So Hal, here's the deal. I'd like you to do the first time ever Surgeon General's report on oral health in America. I'll fund it, so don't worry about the money. Work with the entire federal government, executive branch, Treasury, agriculture, defense, blah, blah, blah. Pull it together, and let's make this happen. I say, but of course. I hang up. I've never seen a Surgeon General's report. Are they this big? Are they this big? Is it a pamphlet? Clueless. So I call in my colleagues and I tell them what happened, and they're like salivating that this is unbelievable. So all of that is to say, if you get a moment, go on the internet, go to the website of the Surgeon General, and look at the first time ever Surgeon General's report, Oral Health in America, signed off by Surgeon General David Satcher, came out in May of 2000, and it has become of biblical importance, and you might enjoy it. Nice to be with you. Thank you.
That was fantastic. Thank you very much. So let's give out the Member of the Month award since she finally came. Congratulations, Yeva. Congratulations. Why do they never come up and get it?
Thank you.
we decided that it would probably be best to send out the sign-up email for the workshop tomorrow, since 10 o'clock tonight's a bit late. So it'll probably go out tomorrow at 12 o'clock. We'll send you a heads up just to make sure. 12 o'clock, yeah, you got that. So, yeah, you guys know about the social. There's no meeting on the 27th. You guys know you all have a fantastic Hanukkah, Thanksgiving. And then lastly, the last meeting, like I said, is the White Elephant Gift Exchange on the 4th. It's going to be awesome. We'll have some hot chocolate, some eggnog. David and I are going to dress up like Santa Claus. He's going to be my elf. We love to dress up. We love to dress up. I mean, and yeah, you guys bring in, like I said, it's a meeting/social. So you get a meeting point for attending, and then you get a social point for bringing in a wrapped gift that's anonymous. And we all exchange it. Hopefully you guys know quite well if you did exchange. If not, everything will be explained to you. So just look forward to that. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Happy Hanukkah. Have an awesome day.